Do you really know your neighbors? What if they just vanished, and the only clue you had was a legend, something whispered about, never confirmed? But you can't ignore it now, can you? You're about to hear why she wishes she never asked any questions at all. It started like any other morning. Karen got up, brewed her coffee, and glanced out of her window, staring across at the house next door. It was quiet, too quiet. She hadn't seen the Thompsons for days, but maybe they were just on vacation. At least, that's what she kept telling herself. That's what the others had said too, when people stopped seeing the Millers, or the Wilsons. But Karen couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Little did she know that gnawing suspicion would lead her into a nightmare far worse than she could ever have imagined. A nightmare rooted in the eerie woods that loomed just beyond her street. The woods where, legend had it, a reclusive figure lurked, a figure no one dared speak of anymore. But Karen was about to learn that some legends are very real. Karen began investigating. She knocked on doors, but the few neighbors left were reluctant to speak. They glanced nervously at the woods whenever she mentioned the missing families. That's when she remembered the urban legend, something she had heard only in passing when she first moved in. The legend was about a man, or maybe it was something else, who lived deep in the woods. He was said to be a hermit, a recluse who hated people trespassing on his land. Kids used to dare each other to venture into the woods, but that had stopped long before Karen arrived. No one went near the trees anymore. Rumors spread that the man had been dead for years, but some whispered that he still walked the woods, watching, waiting. And those who wandered too close, well, they were never seen again. Karen didn't believe in legends. She believed in facts. So, one night when the full moon hung heavy in the sky, she grabbed a flashlight and decided to see for herself. The woods were thicker than she expected, the trees towering overhead like silent sentinels. Every step felt wrong, like the forest itself was pushing back, trying to keep her out. The deeper she went, the more suffocating the air became. The ground was soft, almost like it was pulling her in with every step. Then, she saw it. A cabin, small, barely visible through the twisted branches. Its windows were dark, but there was something off about it. It wasn't abandoned. She could feel it. Something or someone was in there. But before she could get any closer, she heard a sound behind her, a snap of a twig, followed by the rustling of leaves. Karen froze, her heart pounding in her chest. She turned slowly, expecting to see an animal, but there was nothing, just the stillness of the trees. And yet, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. Hurrying back to her house, Karen couldn't sleep that night. Every shadow, every creak in the walls felt like it was creeping closer. The next morning, she found muddy footprints leading from the woods to her back door. It was that night when everything changed. Karen was in bed staring at the ceiling when she heard it, a faint knock on her door. At first, she thought she imagined it, but then it came again. Slow, deliberate. She grabbed her phone and crept to the door. Peeking through the peephole, she saw nothing. The knock came again, louder this time, more insistent. She backed away, her heart racing. Then her phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. "Don't open the door, he's watching." Her blood turned to ice. She looked out the window, her eyes scanning the street, but it was empty. Just the wind rustling the leaves. She wanted to scream, to run, but her body wouldn't move. Another knock. Suddenly, the back door creaked open, slow and deliberate. Karen grabbed the kitchen knife and pressed herself against the wall, her breath shallow. She heard footsteps, soft, almost cautious, moving through the house. Then the whispering started, a low, guttural murmur that seemed to come from every corner. Her head was spinning. The room felt like it was closing in on her. She couldn't tell if the whispering was in her mind or if it was real. Just when she thought she couldn't take it anymore, the footsteps stopped. Silence. For a moment, she thought it was over. But then the front door opened, and a figure stood in the doorway, tall, shadowed, and watching. Karen's blood ran cold. This was no urban legend. He was real, and he had been watching her all along. The next morning, Karen was gone. The police found no signs of a struggle, no footprints, nothing. Just an empty house, much like the others. Her neighbors didn't ask questions. They knew better by now. The legend wasn't a story, it was a warning, and Karen had paid the price for not heeding it. Some say they still see her, wandering near the woods, searching for a way out. Others say she became part of the legend, another ghost trapped by the darkness that dwelled within those trees. But one thing's for sure, the disappearances haven't stopped. Don't look too closely into the shadows. You might not like what you find. Watch the next video, if you dare.